Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Thursday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Today's episode is really just giving you a little recap of our most recent trip to London, as well as diving into what is in my medicine cabinet. I actually had this episode requested and thought it would be really helpful, especially now because I am sick and trying to fight off sickness, and I really thought it'd be helpful just to share with you kind of what my more holistic remedies are, what you've also shared with me that you like to use, because I did ask on a question box on my Instagram, and just some overall ways that I support my body, whether it's pain or headaches or low energy or stress, just some additional ways that I support my body, again, holistically with a food focus, herbal focus, tea focus, and then obviously supplements as needed. And I'll kind of dive into how I approach medicine, medication, and supplements in general when we get to that part of the episode. But thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, hello, I'm Bailey. I'm a functional nutrition coach, and I really utilize functional testing, that's both HTMA and functional blood testing, to identify what is happening within my client's body and how we can use a food-focused approach to heal, right? Food and lifestyle, that is what I do. I'm not big on supplementation. Contrary to today's episode, I will talk a lot about supplements. I am not huge on supplements. I think if you are taking more than 4 supplements, there is a huge lack in your diet, either a lack of calories, lack of protein, lack of nutrients and micronutrients, and that's something that has to be addressed first. That or your body's just really depleted due to stress, or obviously there are conditions where you might need more than that. But generally, I am not big on supplements because I personally don't take a lot of them either. And so, yeah, that's just really how I approach it. We're looking at mind, body, and spirit, the body as a whole, and in utilizing what God has given us to take care of your body to the best of your ability. And I love that I'm able to just walk women through that. Like I said, I do a lot of testing, so we just really can see firsthand what is going on within the body. I love to have that data and see how it changes over time as you support your body and support your systems. So that's just kind of a glimpse into what I do. But I wanted today to just kind of catch you up on what's happening in my personal life. If you, again, are new here, don't know much about me, head over to Instagram. It's at Nourish with Bailey to learn more about me, maybe meet me a little bit more, I guess, in an odd, weird social media way. You can obviously always message me over there if you're a new listener or you've been listening for a long time. Of course, I want to connect with you and get to know who's actually listening to the podcast week to week. It makes my day to get messages from you guys and just to hear what you're liking about the podcast. I actually had somebody recently run a marathon, and I messaged her and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's so impressive. And she's like, so ironic because I listened to the podcast while I was training, and that was just like a highlight of my day. That truly made my day to hear that. And I don't know, just to know that I'm like actively in people's ears, it's just makes me have a lot of, obviously gratitude for being able to do this. I mean, anybody could start a podcast. I'm not getting paid for this, right? But just to be able to have little tidbits of hopefully knowledge and wisdom that I can share with you. I obviously don't know everything, but I really do try to share as much as I can and everything that I'm learning with you guys. So thank you for being here. I know I say that a lot, but I really mean it, and I really love to connect with you on a one-on-one personal level because I am really speaking to a void, but I know that there's actually people on the other side of this, so hearing from you just makes my day. Okay, so let's dive into the recap of London. Like I said, I am a little congested, which every time somebody says that on a podcast, I'm like, you don't need to give the disclaimer. It doesn't matter. I still want to listen, and I honestly can't really tell. You might be able to tell, but that is why. That's also why, like I said, I want to talk about how I support my body through this without the use of harsh medications. Obviously, if you want to use medicine, do it. Go for it. No judgment here, but there are some alternatives that I think can be really supportive. So with London, like I said, we were there. Okay, so it was a Monday through, was it Monday? No, a Tuesday through a Monday. So honestly, not that long. The thing when we were over there is funny because they're like, oh, are you here on holiday? We're like, yeah. They're like, how long are you here for? We're like, like 6 days, which is just so different than how people outside of the US take a holiday. Like that's like 2 to 3 weeks, if not longer. I remember vacationing as a kid and going on family vacation, and we would tell them like, yeah, we're here for 8 days. And that was a long vacation for us and our family. And we would talk to families that are there like, oh, only 8 days? Like, why aren't you staying longer? Because like I said, most people would be there like 2 to 3 weeks, if not longer. So it's just kind of funny. But I traveled with an 8-month-old. That's obviously Oliver. And he did really, really well, honestly. Like for his first flight, on the way there, the shorter flight, I think he was a little bit more fussy. And then we had a 7.5-hour flight from, I want to say, Atlanta. And he did really good. Honestly, like I can't complain about how he did. That was a full flight, so we couldn't really spread out much. On the way home, our 7.5-hour flight to Detroit was not full. So that was really nice because I could move and take up 2 seats, and he could spread out, sit on his own and play, sleep, eat, all the things. And I was really kind of worried about that, especially on the way home, just because he didn't sleep wonderfully while we were there. And so I'm like, if he is fussy and crabby and tired on the way home, like I'm really going to be going through it. He did wonderful. So that was not so bad, obviously, but it was just an extra level of someone to take care of. And that's exactly what I expected going on a trip with an 8-month-old. Luckily, I had my friend Delaney. She went with us. My husband was there for work, which is why we went. He went last November, and I said, next time you go, I'm going with you because it's kind of a once in a lifetime trip for me, I think. I don't necessarily need to go back to London ever again. I loved it. It was great. If I went back, I would want to go much more into the countryside, not be directly in London. I did, like I said, had a really good time, but just there's so many places in the world to travel that I have a hard time going back multiple times to one spot. So we were there for my husband's work, so I had Delaney come with me. I had asked her, and she's like, yeah, I would go. So I was kind of shocked by that, but really grateful that she was along with me. Otherwise, I would not have gone on this trip. For sure, not by myself with a baby. That would have just been too much, and honestly, I wouldn't really know what to do. So we had a full itinerary for those days. We wanted to make the most of it, and the first day we got there, we did a big bus tour, which is like the open top bus, and it had me thinking about that song, like, this is where dreams are made of. I'm not going to sing it for you. I think it's like the Lindsay McGuire maybe movie where she goes to London, and I could be totally off, but that is just what I was thinking about when I saw these open top buses. And so we did a tour. We went through past Big Ben, which we learned is actually, I believe, called the Queen's Tower, and it's the top part of Big Ben, which is what you think of as Big Ben, is actually called Big Ben. So it's not really Big Ben, the whole monument. Fun fact, only the top part is. So it's really just interesting because not something I would have ever known if I didn't do a tour like that. We had headphones in, we saw, and you guys, I don't know all the names of everything. I should have paid better attention, but different arches, monuments, we saw super old churches. What else did we go past? The London Eye, not Golden Gate Bridge. Oh my gosh. The London Bridge, and the one that opens and shuts for ships. Like I said, I really am bad with monument names, but we saw all the sites. We really saw everything that you could have on that tour. And it was really just good to get acquainted with the area. And actually somebody that I follow on Instagram was just in London, and I messaged her, and she was like, make sure you do a big bus tour because it's just good to get acquainted with where you're at. And I would say like our hotel was not in the perfect area. We were about like a mile or 2 miles from most things. But that wasn't a bad thing. It was kind of nice to be in an area that was busy, but not super, I shouldn't say not super crazy. There's 9 million people that live in London. So anywhere you go is busy. But that was really what the first day consisted of. When we got in, we kind of refreshed, and then we got supper that night. And then really what my focus was getting a good pastry and a good coffee every morning, which we were pretty successful with. We also, I believe it was the second day, we tried to get acclimated with the Tube, which is their underground like subway system, and we definitely got lost. Delaney and I were trying to get to Bonds Green. It was a restaurant that we had reservations for, and Bondi Green is what it took us to or something. Like there was something so similar, and we had to change different tubes or different lines, and we got lost. And it took us to obviously not where we were trying to go. At that point, we were late for our reservation, and they charge you $20 a head if you don't show up for your reservation or you cancel. So we were out some money, but it was fine. Delaney and I were just reflecting. We're like, yeah, that was kind of a morning where we're like, maybe this was a bad idea. Like maybe us going to London was a mistake. We were just kind of going through it that morning. We obviously needed food, needed something, and just not the best way to start the day. But nonetheless, we really made the most of it. We also went to the Westminster Abbey Church. We were late to that. We wanted to go to a prayer service they were having, and we were late to that. The thing that I didn't really account for is that it takes about an hour to get to anything you want to get to. So we had left with plenty of time, like an hour and 15 minutes early. And then we got on a different bus line, and then we had to do like a detour. And so we didn't actually get there in time, which is fine. We ended up going to a coffee shop and walking around and seeing Big Ben. We really got to do everything we wanted to do, but we were just a little late to some things because, yeah, you just have to take into account your travel time. We also watched the changing of the guard, which honestly, I feel like is so overrated, and maybe that's offensive to say, but there were so many people, and they only do it, I want to say, every other day. And it kind of blows my mind that apparently these men stand guard, and they are legit standing guard. I know that there's videos online of people trying to get super close to them, making them laugh, but like they are legit standing guard. They're not just decoration. But there were so many people, and the streets were blocked off, and it was just hard to know what was going on. Something I wish I would have done better at is research before I actually went to know what the symbolism of all these things is. But with the changing of the guard, they had a band, they had horses, it was a whole shebang. It was about like 45 minutes long. And I was like, surely the Queen is coming out to wave or something with how many people are standing here watching this. And no, it was really just the changing of the guard that brings that many people, which I feel like is just because it's an iconic thing to do, is to go. And so we did that. We saw it. I probably don't need to see it again, but you know, we did the thing, right? And that was really what we wanted to do. We wanted to see the sights. And we also did like a canal tour. And so there are different canals in London that you can take that, rather than like the big, I would assume, river that goes like under the London Bridge, there's little canals. And that was how they actually used to bring in different things through ports. It was really interesting because they used to have horses that would actually pull the little canoes that had like gunpowder and food and I don't know what else they would have stored. And then if you'd go under the bridge, the people in the canoe would have to go on top and use their legs to like shimmy themselves through. The horses would go over the bridge, then come back down, and then that's how the boat would go through. It just blew my mind, like how much history is in London. It's insane. And I know we definitely didn't even see a sliver of it, right? There's so much to explore. Like I said, 9 million people. So it really does, I mean, it's huge. As far as you can look, there is things and buildings and apartments and I know there's so much history. So now I really feel like I'm going to want to read a lot of literature that is based in London, just because I know how much history is there, and I don't feel like I even knew a sliver of it, and I wish that I did. So I want to do kind of some back-end research and education on what I saw and the significance and importance of each thing. What else did we do? Oh, we also went to Deal, which is in Kent. So we took the train, which was above ground, and we took that into Deal. So we saw a castle, we got some local fish, walked around, did some shopping. It was nice to get out of the city and see the countryside of England. And I really think if I went back to England, I'd want to go to Cotswold, which I know is, I believe, west of London. And again, it's just more of like a smaller city and more quaint little shops, and I just think I would really appreciate that. I just love small towns. Not even small, they're still really large population, but they just have little cafes and little places to shop. That's just kind of my vibe when I go on a trip. We also went to Notting Hill, and that, if you've ever watched the movie Notting Hill, you need to. We saw the bookstore that's kind of mimicking the actual Notting Hill bookstore in the movie was actually filmed there. And so, it's all touristy now, but that was kind of fun to see. I love that movie, and it's just really cool to see where it was set. But we stumbled upon a Saturday market. So they had so many antique vendors and small businesses, and they had some artists that were set up there. And it was like a mile long, if not longer, of both shops and vendors. It was insane. And I do have regrets. We walked past a booth, and she had made like handmade cashmere scarves, and I told myself that I only want to buy things with intention on this trip. I don't want a sweatshirt that says London that I'll probably wear like once. I want something that is intentional. And so I really wanted to get like a fancy nice scarf. Well, we walked past and I didn't get it, and I don't know. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, to spend that much on a scarf seems kind of silly because I could lose it. But then that was what I was looking for the rest of the trip, was like a really good scarf. And I'm like, if I should have just bought the one when I found it. So anyway, I have a little bit of remorse there, but otherwise we went to other shops. Fortnum & Mason was a massive department store. It felt like you were in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Truthfully, they had like tea and chocolate and candy, and it was insane. And we also had high tea. I think it's called high tea. On what day was that? It doesn't matter what day. But that was interesting too, just like the order that you eat, because they bring it out on this tray and you have the sandwiches first, and then you do the biscuits on top, and then you finish with dessert, and you can choose tea. And I told myself that if I'm going to London, I'm going to force myself to like tea. I'm not typically a tea drinker, but I have to say I have an appreciation for it now. I would get tea when we would get breakfast, or in our room we had the ability to make tea. So I really am on a tea kick, which is a good thing, because teas, as we'll talk about on today's episode, are so full of adaptogens and support your body really, really well, depending on what symptoms you're experiencing. So I loved that. Tea was really, really special. Something that, you kind of do once in a lifetime. And overall, it was honestly just such a good trip. Very tired when I got home, of course, just because of the flights, and my husband and I and Oliver are all kind of getting a cold, and so trying to fight that off. Yesterday I took about a 5-hour nap, which is so unlike me, but definitely necessary. But I thought I would share with you the best eats of London, because I'm a food gal. I love good food. And I would definitely say the Chai Guys is the name of the business, but they also have chai that you can buy. That all just really rhymed, but that was a yummy, yummy chai. I think like chai is just so warming and comforting. It's a really good tea to get you into drinking tea if you don't love tea right now, because it has milk and you can make it into a latte. So that was so yummy. And they had a cardamom bun that I got with my chai. I also got, I believe it was like a cardamom bun almond croissant. And then I got a chocolate croissant. Honestly, all the pastries were so, so good. And what's so crazy is how good you feel while you're there eating that food. If I ate that food here, I would feel like trash, which is so crazy. And I think until you experience it, you're like, there's no way. And then you actually eat whatever you want. Like, I truly ate whatever I wanted. And I think that was such a different mindset than I have had on literally any other trip I've ever been on. I've always been so worried about eating out and wanting to make more meals in the hotel room, because I didn't want to eat out every single meal of the day and feel crappy. But I ate out literally every single meal, and I felt totally fine. My pants, honestly, I felt like fit different. I'm not saying I lost so much weight, but it was so crazy to be able to just eat normally and feel good. And then now, when we were in the airport in America, like trying to find a sliver of something healthy, and it's just nearly impossible to find anything that actually makes you feel good. So, and I feel like I eat I do eat very clean, but even the food over there, like I felt totally fine. It had dairy, it had sugar, it had gluten, and I felt fine. Hence why I had croissants and cardamom buns and just enjoyed food, because I wanted to enjoy food. And that was probably, like I said, the first time I've ever taken a trip where I've just been going in with that mindset of wanting to enjoy food. Usually it's something I'm really obsessive over, and I just felt comfortable. It also helped too that we walked anywhere from like 14 to 22,000 steps a day, depending on what we were doing. So we were just moving a lot and walking a lot, and it just feels so good, even if you eat something that doesn't make you feel good, to walk afterwards, right? And just like get your digestive system having to work and break down food. It was just really, that's just something I love. When it's a walkable place or I have to walk a lot on vacation, I enjoy that, because I'm not saying I have to justify the food I eat, but I know that I'm moving enough to support the food I'm eating, if that makes sense. So that was so crazy. Just again, how good you can feel eating normal food in a different country. It's called the Humble Crumble, and that was an apple dessert that truly was top 10 best things I've ever eaten in my life. Obviously you can hear I was going for the food, like I wanted to eat good food, but it was apples, like caramelized apples, and then it had like a crumble on top, and then they did a hot custard, like a pudding on top of that. I can't even describe to you how delicious it was. I'm going to try to recreate Oh my gosh. I'm going to try to recreate the recipe and share it on Instagram, because I really think it would be simple to recreate. I just need to figure it out. For sure, the custard, I think that's going to be the hardest piece, but it was so good. And that was what we got the last night we were there for dessert. Delaney and I were just going out to eat. I really wanted to get a Sunday roast, because that's a big thing there. And by the time we went out, it was like 8 p.m. and no place had any more Sunday roasts. So we just ended up getting some like snacky stuff, but we were like, okay, let's get a good dessert. It was a 15-minute bus ride. We went there and they were closing in 10 minutes, but it was kind of crazy because we also stumbled across a photo booth that took like authentic photo booth strips, and that was something we had wanted to do. So it all just like worked out really, really well, and had such a delicious dessert that I'll be thinking about for so long. And it was just a great way to kind of wrap up the trip before we came home. Like I said, a long day of travel. I think we were awake for 22 hours. So of course our bodies are a little worn down, but I knew coming home that I needed to take a day just to not work, not do anything client related. Although I love what I do, I think it put into perspective seeing so many people just living life, and truthfully just like stepping away, not opening my email for 5 days, which is probably the longest I've ever gone without checking email or anything. And I will be honest, like it's hard to get back into it, just because when I'm here, I'm thinking about it all the time, and it is a high point of my stress, or high contributor to my stress. Whereas when you're not here and you can't really do anything from having a time change, it just makes it harder to communicate with people. So it was really, really good just to be disconnected and realize kind of like what's important in life, truthfully. Not saying what I do isn't important, because I love what I do and I say that all the time. It's just gave me a different perspective, right? That life is not just meant to be full of work. You should enjoy time outside of that, and enjoy time traveling, and enjoy time spending money on things that you want to spend money on, and enjoying good food. And yeah, it just was a good breath of fresh air. Although I wouldn't say it was a vacation or a trip that left me feeling super rested, it was good to have some separation from work and just living life. So that was definitely a highlight, I would say, for me. All right, so I've given you enough of a catch up. I feel like I've yapped forever, and I'll probably continue to have stories and things that come to mind in the future about this trip, because this is probably the only international travel we'll do for a while. So it was really special. But let's get into the bulk of today's episode. I need to go get Oliver from my mom, so I'm not going to try to rush through this, but I do think we should just dive in. So what is in my medicine cabinet? Like I said, this was a requested episode just to give you some alternative ways to support your body when you are getting sick, when you don't feel good, and ways that you can do it without medication. Like I said, I'm not anti-medication. I think there is definitely a time and place for medicine. But for me, I really will do as much as I can without it until I need it. And I can't tell you the last time I was on an antibiotic, or honestly any over-the-counter or prescription medicine. It's just not something that I have access to, and that if I feel sick, I don't go to the doctor right away. I'm going to do things to work through it at home. That's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. Maybe some of you will think that's stupid to do that. That's fine. I just really like to support my body, and I can honestly make a better connection to why I'm getting sick, and I know what to do to fix that, right? Like for us, we were awake for 22 hours already fighting a cold and being exposed to a lot of people in an airplane. Of course, we're probably not going to feel good. So the entire way home, and even a couple days before we left, and honestly throughout the whole trip, I was taking turkey tail and I was taking bee propolis to support my immune system. Now, am I still getting sick? Yeah, I am. But lack of rest, stress, right, of travel, it's all going to contribute. Also, I ate more dairy and gluten than usual. And although I didn't physically feel any symptoms of that, I do know that produces more mucus within the body, more phlegm, could definitely contribute to just feeling congested and having some drainage. So I know what probably has led to feeling sick. Now I'm like, okay, what can I do to support my body the best way I possibly can? That's why I wanted to give a disclaimer, because no, this will not be everybody's cup of tea. Some of you will want to go to the doctor, get medicine, get over things really quickly, maybe take a Mucinex PM. The thing that I have realized and learned about things like Mucinex, is that it really just makes you tired, so you sleep more. Hence, when you sleep more, your body heals and recovers from sickness. And so I know if I'm really emphasizing rest and can sleep more, take long naps. Like I said yesterday, I took a 5-hour nap. If I'm able to do that, which I can't always do that, I really can get over things a lot faster and feel better sooner, right? Our body needs rest, time asleep, not just laying on the couch watching TV, but time actually closing your eyes and sleeping. So how I approach sickness in general. There are some teas and herbals that I tend to lean on. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of my lemon ginger tea that I made for myself before I got on today's call. Not today's call, today's episode. As you can tell, my brain is a little all over the place, but we're going to get through this. So teas, I really emphasize lemon and ginger. Ginger specifically warms the body and can help with those chills that you might get if you have a fever or a sore throat. It's going to soothe the throat. Slippery elm is also a really good one for lining your throat. Slippery elm, like I said, sounds kind of like it. What it would do is it can coat your throat to help everything drain very easily. There is a throat coat tea that contains slippery elm that you can buy. Traditional Medicinals tends to be the brand I lean towards just because it's very accessible, very affordable. If you are looking for an affordable way to take care of yourself, teas are always the first step, in my opinion, just because they're just supportive. They're adaptogens. I did an herbalism course, my home apothecary course, last May, and learned so much about herbals, and it just blows my mind how beneficial they can be and how, God has designed these plants to be supportive. So that would be what I would do. Again, like if I have chills or if I have a sore throat, would be that lemon ginger. It also is good for supporting circulation and can reduce muscle aches, migraines, and pain. So if you are not necessarily sick with a cold, but you have muscle aches, maybe a headache, you're feeling inflamed, ginger and lemon is really, really good for reducing inflammation within the body. The next one would be elderberry tea or syrups. These are really rich in antioxidants to prevent the flu or help your body recover from a cold. Elderberry can also be found in a capsule form. So I have one by Gaia Herbs. I believe that's how you spell or say it. It's echinacea and elderberry, and it really just works to shorten the duration of your cold and stimulate your immune system so that it has to function efficiently to get over whatever you're experiencing. I also really like a digestive chai. The one that I get is from Artemis here in Omaha, which is in Nebraska. I believe you can order it online. What I like about the digestive chai is that it isn't full of caffeine, so there's minimal caffeine within this. Also full of ginger, nutmeg, cardamom, clove, and cinnamon. So this again is going to bring warmth to your body, support blood sugar, and reduce stress on your body. When blood sugar is imbalanced, we can notice more stress on our body. So digestive chai is going to really just bring temperature warmth, but also spice warmth to your body. And when we are able to have a functioning digestive system, a really well supported digestive system, food is able to move through us faster and in a very healthy way, and our microbiome can be balanced as well. So we want that good balance of good and bad bacteria. Whereas if you were to take a antibiotic, it can wipe out a lot of good bacteria. So then you're in that rebuilding phase, and you can actually shed that antibiotic. So if you are sharing a toilet with somebody that is also on an antibiotic, they can get exposed to your body as it's shedding, and they can have an immune response, a negative immune response. Really interesting. There are some episodes from the Skinny Confidential that I'd recommend you listening to. The one was from Beekeepers Naturals, which I'm going to talk about bee propolis and royal jelly. But the other one, and I can't remember who they had on, but they talked about just antibiotic usage and how your body sheds and how you can really rebuild your gut microbiome and that balance of good and bad bacteria efficiently after being on an antibiotic, which is something I would always recommend, is some sort of protocol post antibiotic if you can. I don't think antibiotics are a bad thing, and I know they are wonderful and effective, but there are some things you can do to support your body after being on that. Peppermint tea is another tea blend that I really like. This can clear your sinuses and relax airways. If you have peppermint essential oils, I like to put that under my nose, under my tongue, behind my ear. Behind your ear, under your nose is a good way to reduce headaches if that's something you're experiencing. Also in your belly button can be a good way to reduce digestive discomfort. I'll also do maybe some drops of food grade peppermint essential oils in my water and drink it if I had something really greasy or had some dairy and wanted to just ease and in a very gentle way support my digestive system and honestly increase the speed of elimination. I will use peppermint oil. Chamomile tea also is good for calming your stomach. If it's churning, you have an upset stomach, and it can reduce cramping. So if you are, either muscle cramping or if you're on your period, that can be really supportive for reducing any sort of aches and cramping within the body. It's also a good detox tea, so removing anything outside of your body or anything in your body that you don't necessarily want there, like mycotoxins, different environmental exposures. That can be really helpful for both liver support, dandelion root tea as well, supporting your liver, naturally detoxing, and also the flow of bile. We want bile to not be too efficient, causing us to have diarrhea, but not too slow, causing constipation. We want bile flow to be regular and very healthy. If we look at herbal blends, again, like I said, Echinacea blend, that's that quick defense supplement from Gaia. This is something I have. I have all of these teas actually, and essential oils, peppermint, in my kitchen. I have like a little, I would say like homeopathy drawer, but I'm not super into homeopathy. I would love to get more into that. And if you know anybody that is really knowledgeable in that area, please send them my way because I want to have them on the podcast. But just by doing my home apothecary course, I found some supplements and teas and tinctures that I really want to just have on hand. And that's where I keep them, is I keep them in my kitchen so they're very accessible, very organized. That herbal blend is quick defense. This can also shorten the duration of your cold. It's going to, again, stimulate your immune system, make it function efficiently to get over whatever cold or flu that you're experiencing a little bit faster than you would if you were not taking either of them. And again, you can take it in tea form. You can do an elderberry syrup. I like that this one is in capsules, so I can take it and travel with it really easily because I'm not dealing with any liquid. Supplements that I would recommend would be colloidal silver. This one definitely has mixed opinions. I like to take it if I have any sort of virus or bacterial infection. I definitely will reach for colloidal silver. I took it during my pregnancy because I knew of a midwife who had approved of it, and I felt safe taking it. I know, again, there are mixed reviews on colloidal silver and its effectiveness. I really think that it is a very powerful tool to have in your medicine cabinet. It can act as a natural antibiotic without totally stripping your body from the good bacteria. You can use it topically, you can use it through your nasal cavity or orally. I've only ever taken it orally, but by Ro Casa I think it's Row Casa Organics. They are a great resource if you're looking for products. But I was talking to a client and working with one that had a lot of congestion, and through diet, a lot of that was reduced, but there were still instances where she would notice some congestion. And so she got a nasal spray through Row Casa Organics, which is a colloidal silver nasal spray, and apparently it was super effective. So I know you can do that for congestion, and then topically you can do it on any wounds to help speed up that process, and also clear the wound as well. So I really do like colloidal silver. Like I said, there are mixed reviews, but I have personally found a lot of benefits from it, and it's been very effective for me. When I had strep throat during my pregnancy, I didn't go into the clinic or anything, but I took colloidal silver for, I want to say 7 days, and was able to clear it, get over it just fine, as well as, obviously changing how I was eating, emphasizing the herbs and adaptogens and teas, but colloidal silver was, I believe, a key piece of that. I also really like turkey tail. If, you're somebody that struggles with, maybe a heightened immune system, you get sick really often. There are so many pieces and questions I would have for you, but if you need just something to generally support you, if you're exposed to somebody who is sick, I think turkey tail is probably the number one supplement I would recommend. Host Defense Mushrooms is the brand that I get from Natural Grocers. It's also a natural probiotic, so it can support your gut microbiome, and really just because it's packed with polysaccharides, it can give your body energy to fight off infection. So even if you're exposed to something, I really think it's really good for just that resistance and building resistance within your body. Something you wouldn't have to take every other day. It's also really good for seasonal allergies. Again, anything that's going to support your gut microbiome is going to support your immune system, which is why turkey tail can be so big. I also have been just downing the Oregano Gold King coffee. Now, Lyndon, my friend Lyndon, she's been on the podcast a couple times. She really put me onto this a couple years ago, and I had stopped buying it for a period of time. I'm really bad at re-buying things once I'm out. So I just kind of took a little bit of a break, but I'm taking it again, and I notice a huge difference in not just my, I would say cognitive function is huge, but also just my congestion and my throat definitely soothed. And I took it this morning and I felt so good up until this evening. Now I'm taking another tea. I do think that the effects of it just last really long. It has reishi spores in it, and reishi and mushrooms in general really adapt to your body's needs, which just supports your immune system function, and it can also calm an overactive immune system response. Like if you have high bouts of inflammation or you have seasonal allergies, it helps your body respond to that. Mushrooms are so intelligent and they work with your body, not against your body, which is why, again, turkey tail, which is a mushroom, and reishi in a high quality form, like Oregano Gold, this King coffee, it's like a coffee powder. I will just add that to hot water with maybe a little maple syrup or honey and a splash of coconut milk. And again, just very warming on the body in general. And if you're somebody who drinks coffee and you feel wired and jittery, this would be a great option for you because it actually has benefits. I'm not saying coffee isn't enjoyable. I, of all people, know how special coffee is, but I also know how anxious and, I don't know, it kind of made me feel crazy when I introduced caffeine again. This was probably a month ago after being caffeine free for 4 to 6 months. It's been a lot longer than I probably even think it has been. Just did not feel good. And so this is something where I love that I know that it's actually directly supporting my health, supporting my immune system, and supporting my cognitive function without just giving me an energy boost. It's also doing something. And that's just what I like about that over just a plain coffee, especially when I'm sick. Also, Bee Propolis is really big. Beekeepers Naturals is the brand that I use. I got one that actually is I want to say it's like a throat coat spray. And so it has that slippery element in it. It has some peppermint and bee propolis. And so it really is soothing on my throat now that it's sore. But what the purpose of bee propolis is in the hive, and it seals and sterilizes the hive to protect the bees from bacteria, fungal, or viral infections that can enter into the hive. And so if you think about how that has then been encapsulated into a supplement for us, it can do very, very similar things. I would say very similar to colloidal silver. It's protecting us from that bacterial, viral, fungal infection or exposure. So B propolis is something you can take every single day. I give it to Oliver. There's a kid's version of it, and I give him 4 sprays, and I have been doing that the whole time we were traveling, just to protect his body from anything he's been exposed to, and also us as Nathan and I are sick. I don't want him to get sick either. And I could tell he was already getting a runny nose. It also contains flavonoids and enzymes that help your body heal. So again, it's that healing mechanism because it is so powerful for the bees. We are able to then absorb it and consume it as adults and feel very similar effects as bees would. And it also just in general strengthens your immune system because there are different allergens within bee propolis that your body creates resistance to. Very, very supportive. I obviously am not doing an explanation of it justice, but listen to the Skinny Confidential episode with the founder of Beekeepers Naturals. One of the best podcasts I've listened to in a very, very long time. She's so knowledgeable about it, and Beekeepers Naturals truly is one of a kind of a brand. They also have a royal jelly, bee pollen, and bee propolis honey that you can buy, and I just actually after supper gave Nathan and I both a teaspoon of that, and then I made us both a lemon and ginger tea to help support our body fighting off this whatever it is. So that is a great, great podcast episode for learning more about the bee piece, but that is definitely something I always have. The bee propolis, I have the royal jelly, and then that oregano gold, king coffee, turkey tail. Those would be the ones that I would fill my medicine cabinet with, along with, like I said, all the teas and the herbal blends. And then other pieces of this. So this is if you are not just trying to fight off sickness, but just want something for other symptoms you're experiencing. So for pain, I will be very honest. I do use acetaminophen for Oliver with his teething pain. He just feels so much better when he has it, which I don't blame him, right? It has to be so painful to be having teeth actually pop through your gums. And so I give him the brand by Gen X. It doesn't contain any artificial colors or flavors. I was just really big on that. Tylenol, I just know does. Wasn't okay with giving him that. Again, that's personal preference. So I do give him acetaminophen. And I would say pretty regularly if he needs it. I can definitely tell a difference in his cry when he needs it. So that is something I do always have on hand. Gen X is the brand you can, or Genexa. You can get that at Walmart. Like I was saying, you can also get bee propolis at Walmart. Beekeepers Naturals is there. And then any traditional medicinals teas will be there as well. If you are really prone to headaches, I would look at mineral content. Trace Minerals, Remineralized by Body Bio would be a great resource. PC by Body Bio would be another good resource for headaches. Removing caffeine and sugar. Also peppermint essential oils, like I said, behind the ear or under your tongue can be a good way to relieve a headache. But hydration is so peace, and hydration with minerals. I actually got a headache while we were traveling, and I knew it was because I was dehydrated. That's something there is, I feel like we all carry around water bottles in America, and we all have like our sippy cups. Whereas if you go to a different country, I didn't see anybody with like a water bottle. They were just carrying. And when you go out to a restaurant, you pay for water. It's really interesting. And so you get a tiny little glass and really like one jug of water, and that's what you get. And you're splitting that between the table. So water consumption was definitely low. I was very dehydrated, which is what led to a headache. Energy wise, if you need support with this, magnesium malate forte is what I'd recommend, and sources of potassium to increase ATP or energy at a cellular level. Potassium and sodium are so big for that. Again, your minerals. Potassium sources would be like dried apricots. That is what I will take, and I truly notice such a difference in the amount of energy my body has. If you are exposed to a lot of mold or allergens and need just support with your body's natural detox pathways, Takasumi is a big one here. Takasumi has so many benefits, but it can really help your body get rid of mycotoxins, endotoxins, any harmful exposures. So I know like when we were living in mold and our bathroom had mold, I would take Takasumi pretty consistently. When you're traveling and maybe you're in an Airbnb, like I've been on many trips with Airbnbs where like it just smelled musty and moldy, Takasumi is a great thing to add in just to protect your body from any exposures there. Just mold exposure in general can really weaken your immune system, making you more prone to getting sick. So Takasumi is a really good preventative measure. Digestive enzymes, those can break down lactose and support liver when consuming greasy foods. So that's something I'll take if I go out to eat. If I have a lot of dairy, conventional dairy here, or a lot of gluten, I'll take digestive enzymes just to help my body break down that more efficiently and prevent any really, really major digestive issues. For sure, if you don't have a liver or don't have a gallbladder, if you don't have a gallbladder, everybody should hopefully have a liver. If you don't have a gallbladder, digestive enzymes can be really, really supportive for just daily usage in general, especially those fattier meals. And then Daily Stress Plus. I took this a lot in college and haven't taken it recently because I don't know why, but you're not really supposed to take it while breastfeeding. Otherwise, I would add it in again. This has ashwagandha, chamomile, lemon balm, B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, really good general support. I love that it also has herbs in it. So obviously adaptogens that are going to support your body's response to stress, like that ashwagandha, chamomile, lemon balm. Really good sources to reduce stress mentally, emotionally. Even if you're experiencing stress day to day, the impact of it can feel more mild if you're adding in adaptogens, which fresh herbs would also be a huge piece here. I do, like I said, keep some supplements on hand, but I'm not a big supplements gal. So if I can do anything with food, that's what I'm going to do. So that's why I really emphasize like the king coffee or the bee propolis or raw honey or royal jelly. Those are all food forms of supporting your body. When it comes to other pieces of this, right? Because those are maybe products that I use and really enjoy. I'm not always inclined to take them because I hate swallowing a capsule. So big piece of this is hydrating as well. Increasing your water intake and adding minerals, remineralized or trace minerals would be great things to add in. Also room temperature water over doing ice cold water if you're sick. Cold water, again, is just bringing coldness to the body. We want to keep the body warm. When your body is warm, it's supported and it can fight off infection, cold, sickness a lot faster. Food, I really try to then reduce mucus-producing foods, phlegm-producing foods. Phlegm-producing, mucus-producing foods would be dairy, gluten, sugar, highly processed foods, beef, deli meat, pork, caffeine, and alcohol. Especially if you notice yourself getting sick, avoiding caffeine and alcohol is huge. And then fried and oily foods. I try to keep the body warm physically and with food. So physically as in like wearing a lot of layers, wearing socks, wearing sweatshirts, but then also with the temperature of the food. So I do a lot of soups and stews, cooked vegetables and meats, and then I avoid anything raw or cold temperature, at least until I notice I'm getting over my sickness. So like for supper today, I made a soup. So it was just some like white beans, coconut cream I use as my fat instead of doing a dairy source. I had some nutritional yeast for B vitamins, minerals with sea salt. I had some sage and ginger and black pepper, all anti-inflammatory, warming spices. What else did I put in there? My protein was beef, so that was a more mucus producing food to put into that, but I think very supportive. And then I did some rice as my starchy carb. So really full of fat, full of protein, full of warm spices to just support our bodies. And then I also will add in cinnamon, turmeric, clove, lemon, pineapple, papaya, kale, spinach, broccoli in their cooked forms, cayenne pepper, black pepper. Again, those would be warming spices. There's also a hack where if you do 1 clove of garlic and then 1 tablespoon of raw honey, that is a really good just daily immune microbiome support. You can also ferment it, which I haven't yet to do but would love to, is you just do raw honey, garlic cloves, you seal it, put it on your counter, and just let it ferment. And again, very supportive for your gut microbiome. when your gut microbiome is supported, you're less likely to get sick, which is why I think, traveling, eating airport food, eating food that's different than the usual, being exposed to a lot of people definitely impacts your gut microbiome. So I know that's why we got sick, but we're just really trying to do what we can to get over it quickly. Other things that you can consume, like I said, bee propolis, royal jelly, bee pollen by Beekeepers Naturals. They have a blend of all of them. And then adding in those spices to your foods, into your meals. I also really like to sweat it out. So if my body is up for it, will try to sweat in some way. I have my red light that I like to put on as I'm warming up during a workout, but doing something high intensity, not high impact, just high intensity. So I'm sweating and building muscle actively can help support your immune system in general. If you have a lot of fat cells, you're just more likely to get sick because there are different areas and pockets in your body for bacteria and fungus and different viruses to get trapped. And if you're not having a lot of support for your detox pathways, or consistently pooping, or doing lymphatic drainage massage, that can just accumulate in your body and weaken your immune system. So building muscle can be really, really good for just removing such an aggressive immune response when you are exposed to something. At least that is what I believe from a more functional perspective. And so doing what we can to build muscle is always a consistent piece of this. Getting sunlight, getting fresh air, again, vitamin D, so necessary, even if it's cold outside. Sitting outside under direct sunlight for 5 to 10 minutes can be really, really supportive, or using a red light or sauna if you have access to that. I also really like to do lymphatic drainage massage while I'm in the shower because my body's already warm. So I will add that habit in to just, again, help my body clear whatever is being trapped within my lymph nodes, and also reduce any puffiness or swelling that's in my lymph nodes. When you get sick, you might notice like your throat feels a little puffy. That's where you're going to have lymph nodes. Your armpits is another area, maybe your lower belly and groin. You can notice some puffiness, just inflammation within the body. And so we want to clear and support those detox pathways, increase the flow of blood in our body to help our immune system, and then also increase the flow of lymph. So that is why I add that habit in. But that is really a bulk of what is in my medicine cabinet. Like I said, I don't have pain meds. I don't have Tylenol. I don't have ibuprofen outside of the acetaminophen, a different brand than Tylenol. I do have that, obviously, in liquid form for Oliver, but I really just keep it simple. I know this might not seem simple, but do what you can with adaptogens. Fresh herbs, adding those in can be so big. And do what you can with diet, right? Bring warmth to the body. Add in adaptogens to help your body respond and support your body through stress. Could not recommend that more. And then supplements really just fill in the gaps where you feel like you need extra support. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will maybe try to link some of these things over on Instagram. You can find me at Nourish with Bailey. I'll do a full slide on, maybe even just a post on what I use consistently and how I use it, just so that you can find actually what the product looks like and maybe purchase it yourself if it's something you're interested in. But I don't share any of these supplements to pitch anything to you, sell anything to you. I obviously don't make any money telling you about any of these products. Genuinely just love them and love how supportive they are for the body. Wow, I think that's all I have to talk to you about today. But thank you so much for listening to another episode of today's podcast. Let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for today. Thank you for the ability to get on here and talk and have a voice that's able to talk, and just a body that's able to be supported. And I just pray for the health over whoever's listening to today's episode, that they are able to just enter into cold and flu season supporting their body well with food and nourishing their body well, keeping their body warm, and just doing what they can to support it on a cellular level. Thank you so much for them and their willingness to listen to what I have to share and just be so kind in response to what I do share. And I just pray for their safety in the week to come. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, like I said, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram. I'm back on YouTube I have actually I'm creating a video for London. We'll see how it turns out. So that'll be uploaded later this week. And yeah, you can just learn more about me. Maybe we can talk through the DMs, message me anytime. My email is also in the description of today's episode if you ever want to get into contact with me about coaching or testing or just want to talk. Always here for you and happy to support you in any way that I can. All right, so with that, I'll talk to you again next Thursday. Bye.